welcome to another video with iLearn Engineering. My name is Leslie and today we're going to talk about the relations between sets. So hopefully if you watched one of our previous videos where we talked about set theory, you'll kind of understand what sets are and what they do and what they're used for. If you haven't, go and do that. But just as a brief kind of overview, a set is basically a collection of elements. So it's, it could be any element that we want. It could be numbers. It could be your favorite movies. It could be anything, any kind of information. And the relation is the connection between those two sets. I'll just type some of this out for you guys so you can kind of see it. So a relation is the connection between two sets. It tells us what there we go. It tells us what kind of operations can be performed on those sets, and there's different types of relations as well. It can show us the types of things that we can do on a set. So in mathematics, and sets and their relations are part of discrete mathematics. It's something called discrete mathematics. I'll put that in here for you as well in case you're interested and you want to go on. It would help if I could spell, wouldn't it? If you want to go and look up later. So in discrete mathematics, we have sets and we have relations, and it's a way of us kind of categorizing information and showing the different sets, the different types of information, the different relationships that we can have between them, any connections between them, all of that kind of thing. So it needs to be a non-empty set. We can't have a relation between sets that have nothing in them, which I guess makes sense, and we have to have, two or more sets. So we can't have a relation with just one set. We need to have at least two sets and some items in them that we can have some kind of relationship before. So if you think back to being at school, which may be a long time ago, it is for me, but if you think about being back at school, and in the morning you might have an assembly where, you go in and they'll maybe give you some information about the day or make any announcements or things like that. But imagine that you had to stand in a queue, going into assembly, and you had to stand in order of your height. So we would therefore have a set of students and a set of their heights, and it would be some kind of ordered relation between the two. There's a relationship between the students and their heights. So we could say a set of ordered pairs is a relation. That's one type of relation that we can have. Let me just drag this up, and I'm gonna do my best to draw. I'm not very good at drawing, so you'll have to bear with me. So imagine this is one set. So this is set A, and then over here we'll have set B, which for some reason is a different shape, but just bear with me. So imagine set A has 1, 2, 5, and 7. So it's a set of certain numbers. And then over here in set B we have A, we have C, we have M, and then we have N. And this is just an example, obviously. So we have two sets. They're both non-empty. We can see that they both have items in them. And say we want to show what kind of relationships there are between them. So say it looks something like this. Assume that's more of a straight line than it is there. Just pretend. I told you I'm not very good at drawing. We can have two items in one set being related to items in another set as well. And then, we can have where M doesn't have anything connected to it. It has no information there. So we can say that this is a type of relation between set A and set B. What we can say, if we wanted to say, set the donation, the main, if we wanted to set the domain of the relation, we would say that the domain is 2, 5, and 7. So this is our domain. If we want to say the range of the set, it would be A, C, and N. So that would be our range of our set for this relation. We could also say that there are some ordered pairs in this set. And when we say ordered pairs, it doesn't have to be in a specific order. There's different orders that we can have. So we could say this set could be 1C because they're both connected together, and then we have 2N because they have that relationship together, and then we have 5 and say 5 goes up to A. So we're going in order of set A. So 1, 2, 5, 7 in this particular set. So 5 then would go to A, and then our last one then 7, it also goes to N. So that could be the ordered pairs in this set, for example, that we have there. We are going in order for set A. That doesn't mean we're also going in order for set B necessarily. Or it could be vice versa. If we had done it the other way around, we could have an order for set B and not necessarily an order for set A. But the relationship is used to check what relationship there is between the two sets, like what kind of connection that we have. And there are 8 main types of relations. So I'll just scroll up a little bit here so we can kind of talk about that. So the first one we have is something called an empty relation. Now that doesn't mean they are empty sets. That's we need to have elements in our set, but an empty relation is basically that there's no relationship between the sets at all. So say we had set A was 1, 2, and 3, and set B was 4, 5, and 6. There's no relationship between those at all. There's no kind of connection. So that is what we call an empty relation. There's no relationship there. I've clicked the wrong button there. Sorry about that. And then we can also have what we call a universal. You'll have to pardon the spelling as well. I broke a finger and I can't type. So a universal relation is what we call a full relation. So every element in set A is related to every element in set B. So say set A would be 1, 2, and 3, and set B is 1, 2, and 3. They're both, they're kind of related to each other. So we would have that universal relation. Every element in set A is related to every element in set B. Then we can also have the inverse relation. And an inverse relation is the elements are the set has elements which are inverse pairs of each other. Inverse pairs of each other. Okay. So say we had set A contains pairs of things, so A and C, or A and B, and C and D, and then the inverse relation in that in set B would be B and A, D and C. I'll draw that out a little bit. Maybe that's kind of hard to kind of understand. So this is set A, this is set B. So in set A we have A and B, and then we have C and D. So they're the elements in this set. In set B then we would have B and A. So that's like the inverse, it's like the reverse. And then here we would have set D and C. So that's kind of what we mean by the inverse relation there. Just drag that up a bit so you can see a bit more. So that's the inverse. Then we have something called identity relation, and each element is related. Oh, I can't even spell, I'm so sorry. Each element is related to itself only itself. My spelling's so bad with this press on. Okay, so the identity one is that each element's related only to itself. So it's not related to any other set. We maybe only have one set there, and each element's related to itself. We can also have something called a reflexive relation. And every element maps to itself as well. In there, maps to itself. So that's a reflective one. So say set A is 1 and 2. So every element in there would map to itself. So element 1 would map to itself, element 2 would map to itself, and so on. We can also have something called a symmetric relation. And basically, if say we have A equals B and that's true, then B equals A would be true as well. So if we had set A that was contained elements 1 and 2, and the relationship between them would be that 1 equals 1 equals 2, 2 equals 1, they would have a symmetric relation. And then the last one we have is equivalence relation. And with that one, if the relationship is symmetric and reflexive at the same time, it is an equivalence relation. So with computer science, we need to know what type of relation we might have between some sets. So if you imagine, I'll just come back up to the top. If you imagine that these are sets of data that we have and we need to do something with them, it's quite important for us to understand what the relationship between them is. We don't necessarily need to go any further than that. We don't need to do any calculations on it or anything like that. That would be more the discrete maths side of things. And if you're interested in maths and interested in discrete maths, you can go off and kind of find out what that is and go down that rabbit hole. But in a computer science kind of world, we only really need to know what the relationships between our sets are. So what's the relationship between our sets of information or our sets of data? Because we need to know how they behave with each other before we do any operations. So hopefully you find that interesting and informative. As I say, if you haven't watched our previous video on sets and set theory, I would go and watch that, and it'll make some of this make a lot more sense. And if you have watched it already, that's great. And thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again in another video. Bye.